Welcome, everybody, to the March 8th, 2022 meeting of the Carpenter Unified School District. Andy, can we start with the roll call, please?
Aaron.
Here.
Jamie.
Here.
Sally.
Here.
Jamie.
Here.
And I'm here.
Thank you. Now please rise for flag salute.
Gosh, I almost got your fingers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item C2 of our agenda is our closed session report. In closed session, the board took action to issue a notice of release to employees identified by numbers 2022-135, 2022-542, 2022-385. Pursuant to Education Code Section 44929.21, effective at the end of the 21-22 school year, and directed by the superintendent or designee to send out appropriate legal notices. The roll call vote was as followed: ayes 5, nays 0, absenteeisms 0, and abstentions 0, and absent 0. All right, on to C3 is the approval of the minutes of the special board meeting of February 15, 2022. We get a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item C3B is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 23rd, 2022. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item C4 of our agenda is approval of the agenda and consent agenda. We do have a public comment on this item.
Yes, we do. We have Mr. Hotchner.
All right, thank you. And I believe you're speaking on D6, is that correct?
Yes.
That's right, thank you.
Correct. Gerald, if you could please let me know when I may begin.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Union leadership appreciates that the district has also taken the advice of several district custodians who have been for quite some time seeking ways of improving the under-resourced conditions they serve in. As district custodians are being asked to provide more output with obsolete machinery, lower staffing numbers and increased safety-related injuries, higher health-related absences, and the general lack of substitutes, the purchase of these floor scrubbers should be an improvement in a Department of Operations now quite notorious for being under-resourced. But we should be clear about this. There is no amount of machinery that can be purchased that will make up for the severe staffing shortages that have both existed before the COVID pandemic and continue to exist at this time. During the 2019 bargaining cycle, the union and the district learned that the district was providing just 65% of its full custodial employees considered to be the industry standard. When compared to similar K-12 districts in regard to both student population and total school site facility square footage, the CUSD should be employing approximately 16 full-time custodians or at least 16 FTEs, meaning full-time equivalents. And again, that was prior to the COVID pandemic, which has further strained the district's resources. The union is confused as to how the CUSD can consistently tell the community that it is hiring more custodians while our total number of custodial FTEs has not changed much in quite some time. Even in the district's own budget projections, it acknowledges there are only 10 full-time equivalents. That's the equivalent of a full-time employee. So there are 10 of them versus the 16 that is the industry standard, some of who are being routinely pulled away to other departments to perform duties beyond those associated with our effort to maintain safe, sanitary, healthy, and hygienic conditions at our school sites and facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, can I get a motion to approve our consent agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Is there any questions? Andy, this is roll call.
Aaron.
Aye.
Jamie.
Aye.
Sally.
Aye.
Jamie.
Aye.
And I'm aye.
Thank you. Right along to E1, we have our student representative report tonight.
Alrighty. So at
Carpinteria High School, we welcome parents and students of the class of 2026 on Saturday, March 5th for a student-parent orientation. Information was shared about the athletics programs, academics programs, and CTE. Our counselors shared information on the registration process for next school year and the events finalized with the campus tour by ASB leaders. ASB is currently planning MORP, prom, senior activities, and grad night. A busy and fun time is approaching for all students, which we are very excited about. This week, academic counselors are visiting classes to help students select their classes for the next school year and finalizing any last-minute FAFSA applications that are yet to be submitted. Athletics is also working on the 102nd Annual Russell Cup. It'll be held April 16th, and this is the endeavor that Mr. Latham coordinates every year for CHS.
Great, thank you. All right, we will move on to our superintendent report, but we do have a public comment on item E2.
We again have Mr. Hotchner.
Thank you.
You have E2 as the superintendent's report,
Yes.
and you would like that before. I'm going to withhold, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to Diana's report. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to begin with some appreciation, and I'd like to recognize the district's leadership team, Maureen Fitzgerald, who's with us tonight, Deanna Zapata, to her right, Monica Thomas, Mari Hornback, Aaron LaPlante, Gerardo Corneo, Lisa O'Shea, Jamie Pursoon, Veronica Gallardo, Carla Curry, Ricardo Cota, Kirsten Newman, and Jeremiah Sobenis for their outstanding leadership during the pandemic these past 2 years. They have worked tirelessly to keep schools open and students and staff safe and healthy. Congratulations to the CHS mock trial team and their advisor, Mr. Cody. They placed third overall in the county mock trial competition that was held last weekend, the last weekend of February. CHS students received a number of awards. Sierra Mayoral, Best Pretrial Attorney. Jocelyn Penna, Best Prosecution Attorney. Fiona Casbaro, Best Defense Attorney. Kate Cooney, Honorable Mention Defense Attorney. And Jackson Melton, Honorable Mention Prosecution Expert Witness. So we're CHS proud. Carpinteria Teachers of the Year for 2020 and 2021. On March 12th, the Carpinteria Community Awards Gala will honor 3 CUSD teachers, Ryan Ethington, art at the middle school, Kate Gedde, who teaches Spanish at the high school, and Carolyn Haynes, who's at Canalino teaching 2nd grade. We're really proud. Congratulations. And then we have more congratulations for our Junior Carpinterian of the Year. Each year, CHS students vie for the title of Junior Carpinterian of the Year, and this year's 3 finalists are outstanding students: Kate Cooney, Sierra Mayoral, and Eduardo Vences. So congratulations to all of them. Good news. After March 11th, in schools and child care facilities, masks will not be required, but will be strongly recommended. So that's Monday, March 14th in our schools, that masks will be voluntary. This week, we have elementary parent conferences. They began on Monday, and it's during minimum days. Working with our families to support student learning is a professional expectation and standard for all of our teachers. Effective teachers develop strong partnerships with families to ensure student support and success. These spring parent conferences provide the opportunity for parents to learn more about students' progress in achieving grade level standards by June, as well as strategies to assist them at home. Teachers also reinforce good nutrition, sleeping habits, and the most important thing, reading every night for 30 minutes. The next item is our historical enrollment data. I wanted to share some information about our enrollment history. In the last decade, we've declined approximately 7%. And according to the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistant Team, FCMAT, the state is also projecting statewide post-pandemic enrollment decline for the next decade, starting this year at 8.7%. And they describe 4 reasons. One is a slowed population growth in California. In the 70s, it was 26% growth year after year, but now we're facing a net migration loss at 0.5%. Another item is the aging population. In the 70s, the median age was 28. Now it's 38. A third item is birth rates. In the 70s, there were 25 births per 1,000 residents. Now there are only 12 births per 1,000 residents. And then the last item is delayed marriages. The first time an average woman is married, average woman, no, that's not right. The first time marriages, the average for women's age is now over 30 in California. So according to FCMAT, those 4 factors weigh into why we have declining enrollment. And we're going to see even more decline in the next decade. So we started out 10 years ago at 2,248. We're now at 2,096. We are enrolling TK and K currently, and we are planning to expand TK, transitional kindergarten, for next year based on classroom space availability, and that's following the governor's lead to expand transitional kindergarten programs statewide in the next 3 years. And we will receive some grant funding for that expansion. So currently, we enroll TK students who turned 5 before December, between September and December. Well, let's step back. You enroll in kindergarten when you turn 5 on or before September 1st. And then if you're turning 5 between September and December, you enroll in TK. Now we're going to expand that to February, and if we have room, we'll expand that to the rest of the school year. So eventually, in the next 3 years, we would like to see all 4-year-olds educated in our TK programs, and we do expect to receive state funding for that. And the last item I have is related to the media coverage about Veronica Gallardo's first year as principal of Aliso. The allegation that Veronica dismissed a parent complaint against an employee is not accurate. Veronica investigated the complaint following the CUSD procedures for employee complaints and reported her findings to the parent. There was no evidence that a student was choked by an employee. The allegation that Veronica does not communicate in Spanish to Spanish-speaking parents is also not accurate. Veronica spends her day at Aliso working bilingually with students, staff, and parents. Additionally, our parent message system is Parent Square, and it has automatic translation features for Spanish-speaking parents. So if you're registered as a Spanish-speaking parent in Aries, then you receive Parent Square messages in Spanish, regardless of what language it's posted in. And in addition, the retaliation allegation and police report also have no evidence. The long-term absence of a classroom teacher and lack of willing substitute teachers were an immense challenge for Aliso and our district that we have now resolved. Today, we received Veronica's resignation letter for March 18th, and we will recruit an interim principal for Aliso and Summerlin. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana, and we wish Ms. Gallardo the best. All right, we'll move on to item E3, public comment of items not on the agenda.
Yes, we have 9 speakers.
Okay.
The first speaker is Mr. Hotchner.
Thank you.
E3.
3, thank you. E3, public comment not on this agenda, correct? Thank you. Please let me know when to begin.
Go ahead.
Thank you. School board, shortly after Superintendent Rigby's arrival to CUSD, she changed the district's legal counsel. And with this new law firm came a level of confidentiality restrictions unseen before the arrival of Ms. Rigby. Recruited by then board member Schaefer, and already known as an anti-union, anti-labor superintendent in Concord, Carlisle, Massachusetts, Ms. Rigby was already dialed into the who's who of anti-labor and anti-employee law firms in the region. So it was no surprise that Ms. Rigby hired a firm that had a reputation that mirrored her own, anti-union, anti-labor, and anti-ethical for that matter. Union leaders around the region are aware that part of this firm's technique is to scare school board candidates and school board members into inaction, not into action, inaction, warning you not to get involved, not to work directly with the community members that you represent. Don't let these administrators, with their lawyers and their alleged expertise, discourage you from fulfilling your role in the community. You hire the superintendent. She is your only employee. You are her boss, and it's not the other way around. Look, the union is really not directing its comments to the superintendent here. History has proven that to be a fairly dead-end road, as it was for those she directed before she even arrived to the CUSD. But we are talking to you, school board members, each individual member, with each of your responsibilities to serve the community, its families, and the students. You don't have to go along with the administrative behavior that is being so well documented and presented to you. We're unsure if you're behind any recent resignations. If you are, applause to you and thank you. If you're not, these words ring even more true. Union leadership reminds you of the promises you made to the community and the need for that level of commitment and sacrifice and leadership at this time. Thank you.
Who's our next speaker?
Okay, next we have Sharon Jagotka.
Okay, good evening. My name is Sharon Yagotka, and I'm the mother of 2 boys. I have deep roots here in Carpinteria that go back 74 years. My father and his siblings grew up on 9th Street. Their homes were purchased by the hardworking hands of his parents, my grandparents, and with a little help from the blackjack table because my grandpa was Filipino, he loved to gamble. As years passed, they purchased their second home near right over here near Conchaloma, and they instilled a disciplined work ethic in their 3 children and grandchildren, and they have become very successful adults. I tell you all this because Miss Veronica Gallardo comes from the same fabric, a strong, disciplined work ethic clothed with gentleness, compassion, respect, kindness, and love. I first met Miss Gallardo in 2015. She was my son's first grade teacher at Roosevelt School. She was and is a phenomenal teacher. She is loving, caring, and giving of her time. Not many teachers will spend after-school hours to help a struggling student, but Miss Gallardo will, and she has time and time again. She understands the importance of an education and reading literacy. She's a strong advocate for our children, expressing over the years the need for a healthy and strong reading curriculum. When the schools were shut down, she helped tutor my son and many other children within Santa Barbara community. Parents would seek her for help because they trust her with the education and safety of their children. If you ask any parent from Roosevelt School who had her as a teacher, they will say nothing but praises for her. They love Veronica Gallardo. I remember one parent saying during a school reef meeting, she said, "I wish we could clone her." Now that says something about the character of Miss Gallardo. She is a valuable gem for our schools, our children, and our families. She is smart, knowledgeable about education code, always professional, always trying to improve herself as an educator and a leader. And as a Latina of immigrant parents, she understands the homes of Mexican families. She was one of those students once. She is here to help Latino kids succeed, and more importantly, all children. I will be honest with you. I'm not going to be politically correct because there's enough of that taking place now, but this is a witch hunt against Ms. Gallardo. I have seen negative comments about her, and they are lies. She is a strong, confident Latina woman who is being attacked by her own ethnicity. That's a shame. Shame on them. If you are not part of the same political narrative or the far left agenda or their woke culture, they will try to destroy you any way they can. And that is exactly what is happening today.
That's your time.
So Alisos and Summerlin Schools should be proud to have Veronica Gallardo as their principal. Hold on to her and don't let her go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And our next speaker?
And next we have Michelle Dario.
My name is Michelle Dario, and until recently, I was an employee of the district at Aliso, serving as a special education instructional assistant and frequently requested substitute teacher. While serving the community and district in this role, I and several other Aliso employees were subjected to unprofessional conduct and threatening statements made by Principal Veronica Gallardo. It reached a breaking point in November 2021 when, after a disturbing special education team meeting, I and several other employees filed a formal complaint detailing her unprofessional conduct. This complaint included, but was not limited to, silencing of discussion or reports related to the significant absence of either academic, behavioral, or instructional resources undermining student performance, student success, and the teaching and learning environment. Aggressively confronting and openly demeaning of staff who tried to share concerns and challenges associated with workplace conditions at Aliso. Stating that the service provided by instructional assistants is an insignificant component of the services provided by CUSD, then threatening employees' job stability by assuring them that the district and school site could run without them and could easily replace them. It's clear that Ms. Gallardo is being empowered by Superintendent Rigby and HR Director Zapata based on their response to these concerns. Rather than further investigate, they chose to chastise the complainants for not filing the correct form and according to the correct administrative regulation. And when the proper form and policy were requested, neither Ms. Zapata nor Superintendent Rigby provided it, let alone responded further. The microaggressions amped up. I already had a sub position at Aliso for the 2 days after the meeting, but as time passed, I was never asked again. I believe this was done as an act of retaliation by Ms. Gallardo after placing my name on the district complaint to limit my earning potential and influence. When my name was brought up by others on the days that we desperately needed coverage, she didn't acknowledge them. On these days, the special education teachers, reading intervention specialist, and counselor were brought in as substitutes, depriving the students who need them most of their legally mandated services. Concerned that Principal Gallardo would continue acting to undermine the reputation of the complainants, and confident in my professional talents and abilities, I tendered my resignation. Since departing, I'm even more confident that I made the right decision to leave the toxic and sycophantic environment being cultivated by district leadership, as the retaliation has only continued. Of the other highly qualified employees who signed the complaint, one has been fired based on an entirely unsubstantiated and officially disputed by many witnesses allegation made by only Ms. Gallardo. Another was just notified that they would not be rehired next year. Half the signatories to the complaint have already resigned for reasons similar to my own, and all of this during a period of catastrophic employee shortages. I echo previous statements made by a brave parent. I have no doubt Ms. Gallardo is passionate about learning and literacy, but that should not excuse the very serious gaps in her ability to lead others. These detrimental shortcomings go beyond just a steep learning curve for someone in a new position. At Aliso, we were encouraged to set ourselves on fire to keep the kids warm, while Ms. Gallardo strolled around with a can full of gas and a handful of matches, bragging about the heat. If their disastrous tenure is allowed to continue as it is, you'll be left with nothing but embers and Superintendent Rigby and Ms. Gallardo pointing fingers at and blaming the ashes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker?
Next, we have Monica Solorzano. Go ahead.
I don't know the circumstances of Principal Gallardo's decision to resign, but if they were in any way impacted by PFA's communications to the board and to the superintendent, I thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing Aliso parents. Our community is going to take some healing now, and that is due to the absence of Principal Gallardo. So thank you very much for listening, and Parents for Aliso looks forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Corey Adam.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Corey Adam. My wife and I are both educators for the last 15 plus years, classroom teachers at the high school and junior high level. Our schools have clear progressive discipline policies. Since Ms. Gallardo was hired, there's not been a progressive discipline model to the parents or on Aliso's website, similar to the one that you can find on Canalito's website. We believe this to be a violation of Ed Code 35291 and prescribed by sections 48980 and 48981 that says to notify the parent or guardian of all pupils registered in schools of the district of the availability of rules of the district pertaining to student discipline. Why is this important? Today, our son was notified in front of his classmates, confidentiality issues there, that he will not be attending the CME 5th grade trip. I was not notified in advance of this decision, nor were we given any indication that he was in danger of missing the trip, either writing or verbally. This lack of communication and transparency is unprofessional, irresponsible, and leaves families in the dark, which is a poor way to build school community within our amazing town of Carpinteria. Had there been a progressive discipline model in which we were notified of clear guidelines, protocols, communication, a step-by-step process, would such a devastating decision have come for a fifth grader? The only concrete feedback that we have gotten about his behavior is that we have been given is that he's rolled his eyes and talked to his classmates. Not atypical behavior for an elementary school student, and also not difficult to redirect and support students in making better choices. Rather, our son is removed from class only when Miss Gallardo has been present, mind you, without any explanation as to why. When we email to inquire about these so-called incidents, we don't get a reply, or when we finally are contacted by Ms. Gallardo, so much time has passed that she can't recount the details of what has happened. The eyewitness accounts of parent volunteers in the classroom over the past week do not align with anything that has been shared with us by Gallardo. The facts don't add up. Our son's alleged behaviors only surfaced after Ms. Allen went on medical leave, which we understand is a very difficult situation for all parties involved. When I asked him about Miss Allen, he stated with tears in his eyes, "I wish Miss Allen could come back. She knew how to teach us." Our son has been and feels targeted by Miss Gallardo. On Thursday, March 3rd, for example, a new sub was having trouble with the class. When Miss Gallardo came into the class to help out, she immediately asked my son to go to Miss Tolkien's class. Thankfully, the substitute intervened and let Gallardo know that Joaquin had been very good throughout the day. This is not the only instance, and we are concerned about the toll that this constant harassment has taken on our son, on his mental health.
I'm sorry, time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who we have next?
Regina Ruiz.
Thank you.
Good evening. I echo the sentiments from Monica, our co-president of PFA. I feel a lot of emotion right now because this has been so hard on our families every single day, and there have been a lot of tears. I understand the critical importance of being an active and positive contributor to my children's education. I'm currently the president of the Carpinteria Middle School Parents Group, and I'm committed to volunteering every single day in room 14. Last week when I volunteered, I was able to share one of my favorite stories in 5th grade, the day it snowed tortillas, with the kids. They laughed, we enjoyed the story, they were quiet and so good for the entire story. We were able to do an hour-and-a-half lesson, writing, making connections, and writing summaries. They really liked the twists and the turns of the story. These are good kids. They're good writers. And again, they were so attentive during that hour-and-a-half lesson. I thank you for any input you may have had in helping our children get a safe learning environment at our school. I am committed as a parent to continue helping in room 14 because I know there is a lack of substitutes and I can be in there every single day. And the children have built rapport with me through the years. And so I'm committed to helping solve this challenge that we're facing, and I thank you for listening and being part of the solution if that was what happened. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Next, we have Rebecca Champlin.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Champlin, and I'm coming to you as a parent and a community member. And I've had several years experience in HR and partnerships with HR departments and values and development. And I just want to come to you and thank you for connecting the dots and taking integrity and individual responsibility and applying servant leadership in this decision if you had any impact on it. That means a lot to our community at Aliso, as well as our community at large. I just think that that's a big step in bringing this to some healing and just moving forward. And I hope to see more of that as the days progress in the hiring process of a new principal, maybe restaffing, changing a protocol, but just making sure that we're all on the same page, that it's for the kids. And then just doing things with respect, integrity, taking the responsibility, and being a servant leader. So thank you.
Thank you. And who's next?
Natalia Alarcon.
Okay.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say Happy International Women's Day. I don't want that to. Thank you for all the work that you guys do. I know it's hard. First, I'd like to say that thank you to the school board members who reached out to learn more about the challenges that we as parents were experiencing at Aliso Elementary School. And in light of Mrs. Gallardo's resignation, one of the things I want to highlight, or at least know, is that in my experience throughout these past weeks, I was shocked at the lack of response to the union survey simply because it was conducted on behalf of the union. My comments at the last school board meeting were not on behalf or representation of the union or participating in union politics. But I hope that in the future, should a survey occur again, that the district take action. They don't have to take the union survey at face value, but they can conduct their own in-house or third-party survey. And so that's just one experience that I had, but thank you for all of your guys' work.
Okay, thank you. And our final speaker?
Last speaker is Rogelio Delgado.
Hello there. This is about the superintendent and board responsibilities. First of all, they should represent the community, and number one, I thank you for the students who have graduated from our school district, and they have been going to the best universities of the world, East, West, whatever. And for being such a small high school, that says a lot about our district, and I'm gonna thank you for that. Now, those students are doctors, lawyers, engineers, sociologists, and they graduated from our school. And I also want to thank you for the students who are now on city colleges and universities pursuing their dream that the other ones succeeded on. But I know that they will succeed as well. Now, number two, the school district should avoid conflicts with the community, because what we have is that the superintendent and the board actually report to the community. It's the community's money, property tax, that's being used actually for every activity at school. And money should not be overspent on legal fees. Just what is supposed to be spent, let's leave it at that, but not go beyond that, because actually whoever owns a property ends up paying for that. Also, an example is that, for example, Measure U, Cindy Abbott and David, they left right away after a discussion issue. I watched that board discussion about $1 million that actually could not be found, and the architect Rolls was here. So that's why new Measure U directors were hired. But this shouldn't happen, because it's the community actually who ends up paying 1 cent up to $1 million or more than that.
I'm sorry, Ms. Delgado, your time is up.
Oh, okay. So once
you for
again,
coming.
let's all work together in unity, and that's the way to work out things. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of our speakers. All right, we'll move on to agenda item F1. The board is asked to approve the first reading of BP and AR 3230, federal grant funds. The governing board recognizes the district's responsibility to maintain fiscal integrity and transparency in the use of all funds awarded through federal grants. The district shall comply with all requirements detailed in any grant agreement with an awarding agency and with the federal uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, and audit requirements for federal awards specified in 2 CFR 200.1 through 200.521 and any stricter state laws and district policy. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item F2, the board is asked to approve the first reading of BP 6171, Title I programs. The Carpinteria Unified School District has the most updated BP 6171 aligned with the CSBA policy, California School Boards Association. During the FPM revise, it was recommended to change the amount of state and local funds allocated per student for each grade span from 90 to 85 and from 110 to 115% of the per student average for each grade span in non-Title I schools, following the California Department of Education comparability of services calculations. May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
And a second. Any questions on that item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We move on to item F3, Board Bylaws 9720, Conflict of Interest. We do have a public speaker on this item, correct?
Yes, Mr. Hotchner.
Thank you.
F3, yes?
Go ahead.
Just let me know when.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Go
thank you.
ahead.
Okay. All right, so F3, Board Bylaw, Conflict of Interest, and referring to ethical standards. This is a fascinating board action. The union is interested in better understanding how the school board will apply this new board bylaw. Are we to assume that the very district administrators who have permitted, if not even nurtured and directed, the administrative culture of violation across the district will now change course and become the champions of ethics reform? Or does this bylaw simply represent more fanciful language maintained on paper that flies in the face of the ethical practices associated with Superintendent Rigby's previous performance as a superintendent and her performance here in our district? Are we to truly expect district leadership to embrace and maintain the highest ethical standards and help ensure that decisions are made in the best interest of the district and public? Is that what we've been witnessing this evening? It's unclear. We can examine, though, what that would look like. For example, how will an elementary principal whose family rents land to local cannabis producers respond to grant monies provided by those same cannabis producers? Or will employees who provide unique forms of daycare and direct transportation for the children of administrators, will they still receive preferential treatment and job assignments? Will our board and administrators continue to respond differently? Will they continue to respond differently when alleged employees alleged of physical misconduct are employees of color or white males or friends of your family? Will the district leadership permit unique forms of disciplinary intervention and consequences when their children are involved versus when other community members' children are involved? Or how about when making decisions about access to specialized academic programs and opportunities? Will district leadership permit unique forms of disciplinary intervention and consequences when their children are involved? To say they will follow, our administrators will follow the quick summary abstract found on the board agenda item F3, is easy and even optically pleasant. But how exactly will district leadership hold themselves to these lofty standards? And shouldn't they have been doing this all along? Thank you.
All right, thank you. So for item F3, the board is asked to approve the first reading of BB 9720, conflict of interest. The governing board desires to maintain the highest ethical standards and help ensure that decisions are made in the best interest of the district and the public. Accordingly, no board member, district employee, or other person in a designated position shall participate in the making of any decision for the district when the decision will or may be affected by his or her financial, family, or other personal interest or consideration. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
And a second? And any comment on that one? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Item G1, the board is asked to approve the warrants for the period of February 18, 2022 through March 3, 2022 in the amount of $418,011.87. Warrants are issued once a week on Thursdays. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Item G2A, the board is asked to accept the donation from the West Coast Air Conditioning of $500 to the CHS Football ASB Club. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve with gratitude.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item G3 is our 2021-22 second interim report. Ms. Fitzgerald?
Okay, so we have tonight our second interim report. It is reflecting actuals through January 31st. Let me get the clicker going here. Uh-oh. Not working. Okay, we're just gonna do FP. This interim is reflecting a positive certification, meaning that we can meet our financial obligation this year and in the 2 subsequent years. Our district size falls in the 3% reserve range. And this is our property tax history. This is a slide that we've shown both for first interim and in the budget development. It has not changed. We're currently projecting about a 5% property tax increase based on P1, and we're projecting a 4.8 in the 2 subsequent years. And the changes to our our first interim budget are very limited. Most of them are with restricted programs, grants and donations. Special education, we usually get the final special ed budget for the current year this time of year. They usually send it out in February. And so there were some increases in special ed. And then we did receive a $76,000 grant from the CDPH for testing. That is also reflected in the second interim that was not in the first. So we're increasing our revenues by $109,028. Most of that is special ed and the CDPH grant. On the expenditure side, the same proportionate increases for special ed took place on the expenditure side. And then we added the local revenue of the CDPH grant, the expenses to match that for the testing. So the expenditures have increased $113,695. There was some slight increases in the unrestricted staffing for vacancy filling. I mean, there's a lot of activity in the budget now for personnel, so just some slight variations in the positions that were there and the people that replaced them. And that equates to just $4,600 reduction in our fund balance. So it's almost the same. That $4,668 is the total general fund, and that's the all unrestricted. So we're projecting a reserve in the second interim. I see a typo on this slide. I apologize. Oops, let me go back. The green column should say second interim, not first. of 8.84 compared to 8.87 in the first interim. Very slight change. And then the multi-year, the next slide shows the unrestricted and the restricted side. So you can see we are still positive in the unrestricted side where it says excess deficiency of revenues over expenses. We are still not deficit spending in the unrestricted general fund. I will note on the restricted side, it has a negative $692,000. That's how you spend fund balance in the restricted programs. So you may receive a grant 2 years ago that has a 3 or 4 or 5 lifespan. You receive all the money in the first year and then you spend it out of the balance of the fund balance of the subsequent years. So that's not necessarily a deficit spending. It's spending the balance of those grants. This is actuals through January 31st. We are tracking the way we should this time of year. You can see the percentages in column CB. We collect the second portion of our property tax in April, so that's not reflected here. And this is about the time of year where you actually see that your revenues, your revenues are pacing with your expenditures. So a lot of revenues come in the late months of December and January. One interesting note is we are just now receiving federal money from 1920. They are literally 2 years behind, and they probably won't get, especially IDEA. So that is something we watch with cash flow. Our multi-year at a glance shows the second interim reserve at 8.84 and the 2 subsequent years at 11.36 and 15.54. And I'll just note again, this is without any salary adjustments in the 2 subsequent years, other than step and column. And that is the second interim. It's not much different.
All right. Do we have any questions for Ms. Fitzgerald? All right. So I need to get a motion to approve item G3.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right along to item G4 is our 2022-23 budget development presentation. We also have a public comment on this item, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Hotchner.
Thank you.
Is item G4 correct?
Yes.
Please let me know when.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So suffice to say, union leadership recognized a lot of misleading data in the strategically designed PowerPoint you are about to look at, the community is about to look at, and that you were provided some days ago. But before I get into that, a question begs asking. Has anyone noticed that nowhere in the entire budget PowerPoint is there any mention of the exorbitant legal costs incurred by Superintendent Rigby's unique managerial culture? There is not one single glossy pie chart. There's not one chart of expenditures that even attempts to reconcile the well over $1 million spent on frivolous and undefendable contractual violations pursued by Superintendent Rigby. And unfortunately supported fiscally by a few of you. District legal conflict and positions that have been consistently found to be administrative violations at every turn have been identified by both state arbitrators and the Public Employee Relations Board. The district has not won a single legal action regarding contractual violations or unfair labor charges. Yet you continue to throw money down the drain this way, money that could be spent on a lot of other much more valuable things, programs for kids, for starters. Now, for the budget PowerPoint itself, on slide 9, Ms. Fitzgerald suggests that the district pays over $60,000+ to maintain a classroom instructional aide. However, what percentage of our instructional aides actually qualify for that $15,000 healthcare benefit? And of those, how many can even afford to buy into that package and meet the prorated values that are required? And this dynamic applies across the board for support staff, many of whom have not been provided sufficient hours to cover the additional contribution to get that healthcare package. And so every year, year after year, many of them are forced to walk away from that $15,000 healthcare benefit. Walk away from it because they can't get the extra $5,000 to buy in and pay in. And guess who saves that money? If you thought the district, you're correct, while making no effort to provide any alternate form of compensation to these individuals who are walking away from a $15,000 benefit that they've earned. On slide 10, are we to simply accept that property tax revenues are actually expected to decline in the next few years while the highway widening project is due to be completed, while home prices continue to
I'm
skyrocket?
sorry, your time is up, Mr. Hodgner.
And building continues at a robust pace? I could go on, but I understand. Thank you.
Goodness.
All right, we'll have a presentation by Ms. Fitzgerald.
I'm going to forward through most of these slides since we just went over this last meeting, and go to slide 22, where we talk about the budget assumptions. So starting on page 22, these, as the assumptions have not changed, but we have updated all of the budgeted 21-22 revenues and expense to the second interim. So I'll just note that on all of the slides. We are still at $420,923 for our budget drivers. We have no program improvements proposed and no reductions proposed. We mentioned at the last meeting that the program improvements currently are coming through COVID funds, both in enhanced staffing and programs. On slide 26, we've updated the expenditures for 21-22 to the second interim, as well as on page 27. So we are looking at a 22-23 reserve of 11.33%. And the multi-year reflects the second interim at 8.84, the current 22-23 proposed budget at 11.33, and the subsequent 2 years at 25.4 and 22. That is considering that neither the 22-3, 3-4, or 4-5 have any cost of living adjustments in those budgets. We're still negotiating. We haven't started negotiating yet. And then again, the COVID chart and the staffing that has been added with the COVID funds. So that is a quick summary of where we are on the 22-3 budget.
Any questions?
No, I'd just like to make a comment. It's surprising that Mr. Hotchner, who's charged with looking after union employees, doesn't realize that the district derives its property tax projections straight from the county, and that with just a modicum of research he would realize that. So to come up here and make false accusations against the district and pull numbers out of the air is again, it's ridiculous.
Anything else?
Since it was brought up, something that I've talked about with district staff before was the idea of looking at a range of healthcare benefits, and I think it's something that was brought up, and not everybody needs the same plan, and I understand that, and I don't understand. Well, I should say I don't understand all of how the consortium works, but I'm trying, and I know that there is a wide range of plans available. But it's a matter of everybody, meaning union and district, agreeing upon what those plans are. And so if there are a range of plans from maybe, a single person with limited medical issues needs a very basic plan, let's let's find a plan that works for that person, because maybe they don't have 3 kids and a family and medical issues, and they don't need that full intensive plan. So I think there's a great range, and I think, it's a good time to possibly revisit that. I also would like to say that it's wonderful that we have such a great outlook in our projections. And I just want to keep in mind that we have what we want our reserve to be, and just keep an eye on when it starts really going above and beyond. We want to spend that on our students and invest that back into our district, not just hang on to it. So we're in a great spot, and this is setting us up for success in the future to be able to invest back into our community. So thank you.
All right, if there's no more questions, we'll move on to our Measure U items. I believe we do have a speaker on both items, or just one?
I believe on both items. Is that correct, Mr. Hotchner?
Comment to all Measure U topics.
Okay, you can do that now, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. So again, at the last meeting, we were sharing our understanding of Measure U issues related to the accounting of Measure U funds. And I ran out of time with the limited 3 minutes. And then there were some other interesting comments brought up by Mr. Schaefer, who we understand is very uncomfortable about this Measure U topic. Again, it's important to examine how the CUSD manages the Measure U fund in order to better understand how current expenses reflected in Agenda Item H are tracked and managed. The union asked the board if they were aware of the legal letter memo informed by the previous work of now resigned and retired Measure U fund managers. At the last 2 school board meetings held in January 25th and February 8th, it seemed that Assistant Superintendent Fitzgerald was either intentionally or not, being terribly accurate, making her statements to the board about the $311,000 error. What Ms. Fitzgerald and Superintendent Rigby failed to mention is this: they should not have been surprised by that cost, because it should not have been, if it even was, a surprise to them. The data had been provided to them, and it was contained in the Measure U program monitoring system, Colby. Again, the industry or in-industry standard for monitoring these kinds of expenditures and development. It was accounted for. These administrators failed to share that there remained no expertise left in the district to oversee such a massive public works fund, primarily because they had chased these people out of the district, these previous fund managers. If you had exit interviews, you'd be aware of this, but I think you're aware of this already just out of the legal issues that resulted. But even without the expertise in place, Ms. Rigby and Ms. Fitzgerald gave hefty pay increases for new duties, many of those going to Ms. Fitzgerald. And as the first course of business, they threw out the previously tried, true, and tested accounting program, Colby, which again is an industry standard for managing public works projects such as the Measure U development. So it seems they found it too cumbersome and slow for the impulsive leadership that we witness so often, in that Colby required them to cross-check their accounting methods and their figures before being able to claim that they were reliable. So is it any surprise that we made a $311,000 mistake? And will anybody be surprised if it happens again? Thank you.
All right, moving on to item H1. The board is asked to approve the quote from MJP Technologies Incorporated for the purchase and mounting of 17 Samsung 55-inch LCD TVs and 17 Peerless Universal Full Motion wall mounts at the CHS admin building. The quote includes shipping, handling, and TV mounting. The cost to purchase and install the TVs in the CHS admin building by MJP Technologies Incorporated is $23,459.74 and will be paid with Measure U funds. May I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item H2, the board is asked to approve the proposal from Landscape Structures for a play structure at Summerlin Elementary. This replaces the play structure removed during Summerlin construction. The cost of the play structure at Summerlin Elementary is $23,337 and will be paid with Measure U funds. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I just wish it came with a picture.
No,
It's just one of those really fun ones that would be cool to have. Like, this is what it's going to be. It'd be neat if we can
Well, it's just exciting that we're
identify that
actually
and put it out there.
getting play structures at
Yeah.
Summerlin. It's like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Item I1 is our personnel summary. We do have a public speaker on this comment.
Yes, Mr. Hotchner?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So on the personnel summary, beyond what is obvious that there is no great influx of employees and we are losing more than we are acquiring again, and that's not even counting the non-reelects that the district is pursuing, a question exists. Why, after so many years and after so many requests to the Human Resource Director, Ms. Zapata, to the Superintendent Rigby, and of recent to the school board, does the CUSD not offer departing employees, being employees who are released, employees who resign, employees who are non-reelected, why does it not offer them exit interviews in the district? It is one of the most routine and customary practices for a human resource department that wants to better understand why employees are leaving, being released, and choosing other options than our district. What are we not trying to put on the record by not offering these exit interviews? Thank you.
All right. For item I1, the board is asked to approve the following recommended personnel items. We have 1 assignment, 1 resignation, 1 retirement, 1 leave of absence, and 1 winter coaching assignment. May I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Agenda item I2 is an initial proposal from the Carpinteria Unified School District to the Carpinteria Association of United School Employees, certificated 22-23. No public speaker on this comment?
Yes.
Item, sorry.
Yes, on I2, Mr. Hotchner.
Thank you. Union leadership simply wants to thank the district for putting these in front of us at this time of the year. We look forward to reviewing your specific proposals more carefully. And union leadership provided the district this afternoon with its contract openers as well. Thank you.
All right, item 2, again, is our initial proposal from the Carpinteria Unified School District to the Carpinteria Association of United School Employees, certificated for the 2022-2023 school year. This is for information only. Any questions on that item? All right, item I3. Did you have a comment on this one also, Mr. Hotchner?
Thank you. Only to reiterate what I just said about the previous item. Thank you.
Thank you. So item I3 is initial proposal from the Carpinteria Unified School District to the Carpinteria Association of School Employees for the classified 2022 and 2023 school year. Moving along to item I4 is a resolution number 22-892, non-reelecting a certificated probationary employee. Whereas California Education Code Section 44929.21 requires that the Board of Education notify a probationary employee in a position requiring certification qualifications of the decision to reelect or not reelect the employee to such a position for the succeeding school year. And whereas the employees identified in Exhibit A hereto are probationary employees in positions requiring certification qualifications, and Whereas the Board of Education of the Carpenter Unified School District has determined not to re-elect the employees identified in Exhibit A for the 2022-23 school year. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Carpenter Unified School District directs the superintendent or designate to deliver a notice of non-reelection to the employees identified in Exhibit A. Can I get a motion to?
There is a speaker on this item.
There's a speaker on this item. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald. Please let me know when I may begin.
Go ahead.
So that Principal Gallardo has resigned is certainly the start of righting the CUSD ship, but certainly not the end to the administrative negligence and culture of violation that the union's been trying to share with you for now quite some time. There's been a lot more damage than simply the obvious that the community's heard about, and this non-reelect issue contains some of that damage. For those unfamiliar with non-reelect and what it means that the district has chosen not to rehire four employees as of this board resolution. And so with that in mind, union leadership wants to share some insight into what that looks like. We saw, you were looking around, but we saw that there were three employee numbers associated with one and one employee number with another, which is why I said four. If that's incorrect, please feel free to correct me. Three. Okay, three. Thank you. For those, we've already explained what non-reelect means, not to be rehired. So we'd like you to take the experience of Aliso counselor Bert Dannenberg, for example, who was told just last week that he will not be rehired for the 2022-23 school year. It's clear that this non-reelect decision is not based on job performance. This decision, on his decision, it was based on his decision to share concerns about the teaching and learning environment under Principal Gallardo. So we think we should share some facts which can all be evidenced. We have documentation to everything. On November 17th, Mr. Dannenberg and 7 colleagues were subjected to abusive behavior by the Aliso principal. On November 18th, they contacted the union to ask what could they do to report these concerning conditions to yourself, Ms. Rigby, and to Ms. Zapata. On December 2nd, 8 employees filed a complaint that detailed the kinds of concerns and abusive conduct that they were subjected to. And although it wasn't acknowledged in public, I believe the board also received that information. On December 13th, Mr. Dannenberg and his Aliso colleagues received the CUSD's initial response, notifying them, Ms. Dario spoke to this today, notifying them that the complaint wasn't filed on the right paperwork. It wasn't filed according to the right policies, but when the right policies and paperwork and forms were requested from Ms. Zapata, crickets, nothing was provided. In February of 2022, Mr. Dannenberg was contacted directly by the Human Resource Director, Ms. Zapata, and on February 4th, she discouraged him and warned him not to go to the union with his concerns and complaints. Ms. Zapata stated that she would prefer to resolve the issue informally. Imagine where that would have left us. And assured Mr. Dannenberg that any decision on his part to involve the union would ensure that the district's legal counsel would be called in to directly interview him and make the matter worse.
Your time is up.
Anybody who's interested in the rest of these facts, please feel free to contact me.
All right, I get a motion to approve on item I-4, which I read previously.
I'll move to approve.
And a second.
Second.
All right, Annie, this is a roll call.
Aaron.
Aye.
Jamie.
Aye.
Sally.
Aye.
Jamie.
Aye.
And I'm aye.
Item J is our board announcements. Does anybody have anything to share this evening?
I would like to say something positive about this really good district that we are in charge of. I had the pleasure of, I'm a member of the Carpentry Education Foundation, and yesterday we definitely had the pleasure of interviewing students for the Mission Scholarship, which is quite an incredible scholarship, funding students for all 4 years they're in college. Wonderful students from the high school, great grades, personable, well-spoken. It was very impressive to meet these students. And we'll be interviewing more on Friday, and then we'll continue our scholarship interviews in May and be able to award $60,000 to the students. So obviously the community feels strongly about this, and CEF is very privileged to be able to give away those scholarships. I would also like to encourage people to participate in the FFA Tri-Tip Dinner. You can buy tickets at the high school and pick up your dinner on Saturday night. So thank you.
Anything else?
I just want to say that I am so happy that we as parents can be back on campus again. I got to go to my 4-year-old's TK classroom for the first time, and he was so proud to take me by the hand and lead me over there, and it was just so great seeing parents there interacting with each other and with the teachers. I got to give teacher friends hugs that I haven't been able to see because they're getting there so early to get set up and the gates are closed, and so I hope this kind of helps with healing. We as a community, we've been through a lot together. It's been traumatic, and I think parents are ready and happy to be helpful in the classroom and on campus, and this is just, it's a really great time. So thanks for everybody working together so we could get to this point. Thank you.
I'd just like to reiterate Sally's reminder about the FFA barbecue on Saturday, and thank the Snake River Ranch up in Idaho for generously donating some excellent tri-tip, some of the best tri-tip anyone will ever have. And then we have an expert chef, Tom Main, is helping out, or is actually the barbecue master, along with his sous chef here, and we're cooking about 250 pound or 250 tri-tips on Saturday. So it's always a good event and an excellent meal, and you get more than you bargain for. So.
All right. We'll move on to item K, our board calendar. Monica's not here. We don't have anything we need to know about?
Nope.
But we do have a closed session next Tuesday at 6, which will be done by Zoom.
It will be by Zoom, yes.
Okay. All right. Item L is our future agenda items. We do have a public comment on this?
Yes. Mr. Hotchner?
This time, and again, thank you for referring to me as Mr. Hotchner. All previous comments I made were made on behalf of in my role as union president primarily. And so this one is slightly different. I'm still wearing my union president hat, but I'm also wearing my parent hat, the parent of 2 kids in the district. I'm also wearing my hat as a community member and a property owner in the community. There are 2 items that, as community member and in these different roles, I'd like to encourage the board to place on the next agenda. One of them has to do with this, what again we're aware of is the strategies of our superintendent and the select legal counsel that she has brought to the district to discourage board members from sometimes directly involving themselves with members of the community and employees in the district. And because of that, we're hoping that the school board will place on the agenda what are those boundaries, that there will be some clarity so that the community knows what can they expect from you, and so that you are well aware of what can you expect from yourselves and what should you veer from. So we ask that you consider that as a topic for the next board meeting. Another one would be the opportunity to bring exit interviews to the CUSD. I mentioned before, I asked the question, right? Why after so many years do we still not have exit interviews? And again, maybe the starting place isn't in the human resource department. In fact, most certainly it isn't. But it could be here where you entertain the idea, you consider the value of it, and you make decisions that maybe bring it to the district. Exit interviews. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Diana and myself will discuss those and see if they're prevalent to bring on the agenda. Any other items? All right. That ends tonight's meeting. Thank you.
It makes a cloudy day